The architectural grandeur of the Forrester Creations building has always served as a beautiful facade for the ugly, simmering tensions brewing within its walls. As we step into the week of May 18th, that facade is beginning to crack under the immense pressure of unchecked ambition, generational rivalries, and devastating secrets. The entire landscape of Los Angeles fashion is standing on the precipice of a monumental shift, and at the absolute center of this impending corporate earthquake is Hope Logan. For weeks, Hope has endured the suffocating weight of marginalization, watching her beloved hope for the future line be systematically dismantled and pushed to the back burner. Steffi Forrester Finnegan has treated her not as a legacy visionary, but as a disposable junior designer in the very building her family helped build. This week, the breaking point is finally reached, setting off a chain reaction that threatens to burn the company to the ground. The week begins on Monday with a frantic, desperate Ridge Forrester attempting to perform impossible damage control. Over the weekend, Ridge made decisions that have effectively trapped him in a no-win scenario, caught between the fierce, unyielding ambition of his wife, Brooke Logan, and the arrogant, territorial entitlement of his daughter, Steffi. Ridge is desperately trying to mitigate the fallout from his failure to secure the co-CEO position for Brooke, a failure he attempted to smooth over with the insulting offering of an original couture dress. Now, he is running through the halls of Forrester Creations, practically begging the universe to prevent a physical and emotional collision between his wife and his daughter in the main lobby. Ridge's historical cowardice when it comes to choosing between the Logan and Forrester women has never been more apparent, and his inability to take a firm, decisive stand is exactly what has allowed this toxic environment to fester. While Ridge scrambles, Brooke Logan remains absolutely relentless in her pursuit of power. She is not merely fighting for a title, she is fighting for respect, for legacy, and for the survival of her daughter's brand. Brooke's campaign for the co-CEO chair is a declaration of war against the systemic disrespect the Logans have endured under Steffi's regime. However, Monday also delivers a massive shock to the system for Steffi herself. Steffi is completely blindsided by a development she never saw coming. To put it mildly, the smug, victorious expression she has worn since forcing her father to protect her title is about to be wiped completely off her face. Whether this blindside comes in the form of a corporate maneuver by Brooke, a sudden defection by a key staff member, or a betrayal from within her own ranks, Steffi's reaction is guaranteed to be a moment of pure, unadulterated cinematic drama. Meanwhile, in the darker, less glamorous corners of the Forrester building, a sinister and terrifying dynamic continues to unfold. Melissa Dillon is backed into a psychological corner, desperately pleading with Remy Price to respect her wishes. This is, of course, a polite way of saying that Dillon is begging her blackmailer to stop terrorizing Electra Forrester and to stay far away from her family. Dillon's desperation is palpable. She is terrified of losing her newfound stability and her job as Daphne's assistant. But Remy, operating with the predatory entitlement typical of a seasoned manipulator, has absolutely no intention of respecting anyone's wishes. The toxic quid pro quo he has established with Dillon is a ticking time bomb, and his reckless decision to lurk around the design office is pushing Dillon to the brink of a total nervous breakdown. As Tuesday dawns, the focus shifts to the immense professional awakening of Zende Forrester Dominguez. For weeks, Zende has been treated as nothing more than a glorified master tailor, a pair of skilled hands meant to execute the visions of others while his own creative genius is stifled. The realization that his hope for the future collection was not merely postponed, but entirely cancelled, has ignited a fire within him. Zende finally gets absolute clarity about his future at Forrester Creations. He is no longer willing to wait patiently for scraps from Steffi's table. He firmly and unapologetically stands his ground, demanding to be recognized and respected as a true, visionary designer. This internal rebellion signifies a massive shift in the power dynamics of the design room, as Zende realizes his worth and contemplates whether that worth might be better appreciated at a rival fashion house. Tuesday also brings the highly anticipated return of Taylor Hayes to the forefront of the narrative, and she arrives with a brand new perspective on Brooke Logan. In the rich, complex language of soap operas, a new perspective is a heavily loaded phrase. For over 3 decades, Taylor and Brooke have been locked in a bitter, seemingly endless war over Ridge's heart and their respective families' dominance. Does this new perspective mean that Taylor is finally seeing the systemic disrespect Brooke is enduring and feeling a rare pang of empathy? Or, far more dangerously, does it mean that Taylor has acquired the necessary ammunition to finally expose Brooke's ruthless corporate machinations and tear her down for good? Taylor's psychological evaluation of her lifelong rival will undoubtedly add a lethal layer of complexity to the ongoing boardroom bloodbath. The emotional climax of Tuesday, however, belongs to Hope Logan, who receives a piece of profoundly bad news. Given that her entire world currently revolves around the devastating suspension of hope for the future and her mother's stalled power play for the co-CEO seat, this bad news is guaranteed to hit her with the force of a freight train. The psychological toll of Steffi's constant condescension has already pushed Hope to the edge of her sanity. This new revelation, whether it is the permanent reallocation of her funding, the loss of her dedicated team, or a definitive block on Brooke's promotion, will serve as the ultimate catalyst for the explosive confrontations that are destined to follow later in the week. By Wednesday, the shockwaves of the Forrester Civil War have reached the Logan estate, prompting a moment of profound internal conflict for Katie Logan. Katie is forced to deeply question her own motives regarding her aggressive pursuit of hope for her new fashion brand. It is a rare moment of genuine introspection for a woman who has repeatedly told herself that poaching hope is strictly a strategic business move. This self-reflection is violently triggered by Donna Logan, who serves as the moral compass of the family. Donna pierces through Katie's corporate armor, directly accusing her of using their niece as a pawn to enact a 20-year-old revenge fantasy against Brooke for stealing Bill Spencer. This accusation forces Katie to confront the dark, uncomfortable possibility that her ambition is tainted by unresolved familial trauma and lingering bitterness. Back at Forrester Creations, Wednesday offers a brief, almost surreal moment of tranquility in the design office as R.J. Forrester and Zende put aside their bitter differences for the good of the company. Both young men realize that the overarching chaos threatening to destroy the business requires them to form a temporary, fragile truce. This rare moment of solidarity highlights the sheer magnitude of the crisis facing Forrester Creations. When even the most heated rivals must lay down their arms to keep the ship from sinking, it is clear that the structural integrity of the entire dynasty is failing. Viewers should certainly savor this fleeting peace, as it is practically guaranteed to shatter the moment the next crisis hits. Thursday arrives with the force of a hurricane, delivering the ultimate confrontation that the entire week has been building toward. The tension in the CEO office reaches a boiling point as Hope Logan storms in, demanding definitive answers from Steffi Forrester Finnegan. Hope is no longer asking for permission, she is demanding respect. She wants to know exactly when her production line will be reinstated, what her actual future at Forrester looks like, and, most importantly, why she is constantly treated as an unwanted outsider in a building her own mother helped build and finance. The ideological warfare between the two women is palpable. Hope represents inclusivity, heart, and the legacy of the Logan women, while Steffi represents elitism, strict couture, and Forrester supremacy. True to form, Steffi arrogantly refuses to give Hope the answers or the validation she so desperately seeks, ensuring that the bridge between them is burned to ash. While the corporate world implodes in the CEO office, a deeply personal and horrific tragedy unfolds for Electra Forrester on Thursday. After weeks of subtle clues, hidden whispers, and a growing sense of dread surrounding Melissa Dillon and Remy Price, Electra finally discovers a shocking, world-shattering truth. She learns that Dillon, the young woman she just warmly hugged and forgave, is secretly blood-related to Remy, the very man who subjected Electra to severe psychological torture through malicious deepfake videos and relentless harassment. The realization that Dillon has been harboring this monstrous secret, working in the same building, and smiling to her face while protecting her abuser's identity, is a betrayal of the highest order. The trauma of the deepfakes comes rushing back, completely shattering Electra's fragile sense of safety and trust. This devastating revelation perfectly sets the stage for a chaotic and emotionally devastating Friday. The week culminates with the absolute cliffhanger of Hope Logan's career at Forrester Creations hanging by the thinnest of threads. The bad news, the lack of answers, and Steffi's unyielding tyranny have pushed Hope to the ultimate crossroads. Will she finally walk out the glamorous glass doors of Forrester Creations, march into Katie's office at Logan, and accept the opportunity to save her creative soul? Will her legendary Logan stubbornness force her to stay and fight a seemingly unwinnable war from within? Or will she shock the entire fashion industry by striking out completely on her own, launching an independent empire that rivals both legacy houses? The fate of her career is the ultimate crescendo of a week defined by broken promises. Amidst this swirling vortex of corporate ruin and shattered friendships, Friday also sees Will Spencer finally put his heart on the line. After weeks of agonizing indecision, caught in a paralyzing emotional tug-of-war between his lingering feelings for Electra and his complex dynamic with Dylan, Will makes his definitive choice. He steps forward, ready to declare his love and accept whatever consequences come with it. However, in the grand, tragic tradition of daytime drama, the timing of Will's grand romantic gesture could not possibly be worse. He is offering his heart at the exact moment Electra's entire world has been obliterated by the truth about Dylan and Remy. 5 days. One iconic company. A multitude of fiercely intelligent, deeply wounded women who are entirely ready to burn the establishment to the ground to protect their legacies. The careers, marriages, and friendships that survive this week will be forever altered. Hope Logan's professional survival, Brooke's marital stability, Electra's mental health, and Will's romantic future are all teetering on the edge of a razor blade. The fallout from these 5 days will dictate the power dynamics of Los Angeles for years to come, leaving audiences absolutely breathless and desperate for the next chapter in this magnificent saga. The atmosphere at Forrester Creations is thick with unresolved tension and simmering resentments as we step into the dramatic events of Monday, May 18, 2026. The prestigious fashion house, usually a beacon of creativity and glamour, has rapidly transformed into a battlefield of fractured egos, shattered trusts, and desperate secrets. Every corridor seems to echo with the silent screams of betrayed ambitions and hidden agendas. The intricate tapestry of relationships that holds this legacy company together is fraying at the edges, pulling apart under the immense pressure of corporate greed and personal vendettas. At the center of this storm are two distinct but equally volatile narratives, a chilling game of psychological cat and mouse playing out in the shadows of the design offices, and the catastrophic fallout of a thwarted corporate coup in the executive suites. The stakes have never been higher, and the emotional toll on our favorite characters is reaching an absolute breaking point. In the quiet sanctuary of the design office, a moment of profound emotional healing is about to be violently interrupted by the ghosts of a deeply traumatic past. Melissa Dillon, whose journey at Forrester Creations has been fraught with anxiety and the constant, suffocating fear of losing everything, is finally experiencing a fleeting ray of hope. Electra Forrester, carrying the heavy burden of recent betrayals and romantic turmoil, makes the monumental decision to put the past behind them. The air in the room shifts as Electra extends a beautiful, unexpected olive branch, choosing forgiveness over lingering animosity. For Dylan, this is not just a mended friendship, it is a vital lifeline. The emotional weight of this reconciliation washes over Dylan, bringing a profound sense of relief and gratitude that she desperately needed to survive in this cutthroat environment. As the two women embrace, the hug symbolizes a fragile bridge rebuilt over deeply troubled waters. Dylan closes her eyes, allowing herself to believe, just for a fraction of a second, that she might actually be safe. She feels the warmth of Electra's forgiveness, a stark contrast to the cold, isolating fear that has dictated her recent days. Electra's willingness to heal the rift is a testament to her inherent kindness, a vulnerability that makes what happens next all the more horrifying. The embrace is a poignant reminder of the human connections that often get lost in the ruthless machinery of the fashion industry. But in the world of daytime drama, moments of pure peace are notoriously short-lived, and the universe has a cruel way of shattering the illusion of safety just when a character dares to breathe easily. The warmth of the moment evaporates into ice-cold terror as Dylan opens her eyes and looks toward the doorway. There, lurking like a venomous shadow against the brightly lit corridor, stands Remy Price. The blood drains completely from Dylan's face, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. Remy's sudden, uninvited presence is not merely an inconvenience, it is a catastrophic threat that could detonate Dylan's entire life in an instant. Remy is not just an unwelcome visitor, he is the architect of some of the darkest psychological torment Electra has ever endured. To see him standing there, a silent specter observing this intimate moment of reconciliation, sends a wave of paralyzing nausea crashing through Dylan's system. To understand the sheer gravity of this terrifying moment, one must delve deeply into the harrowing history between Electra and Remy. Electra's trauma is not a distant memory, it is a fresh, bleeding wound that dictates her every waking moment. Remy subjected her to a campaign of digital and psychological terror, utilizing malicious deepfake videos and relentless harassment that nearly broke her spirit entirely. The betrayal was magnified 1,000-fold by the fact that, prior to his unmasking as a predatory stalker, Electra genuinely believed Remy was a good, trustworthy friend. The psychological scars left by his vile actions are profound, casting a long, dark shadow over her ability to trust anyone. For Electra, Remy is the physical embodiment of violation, manipulation, and sheer terror. Dylan is acutely aware of this horrifying history, which makes her own dark secret a ticking time bomb of monumental proportions. Dylan is Remy's cousin. It is a toxic blood tie that she has desperately, frantically kept hidden from everyone at Forrester Creations, especially Electra. If Electra were to turn her head right now, if she were to see Remy standing in the doorway and then discover that Dylan, the woman she is currently embracing in a gesture of renewed trust, is secretly related to her greatest tormentor, the fallout would be apocalyptic. The fragile trust they just rebuilt would instantly disintegrate into a million irreparable pieces. Electra would inevitably view Dylan not as a friend, but as a complicit accomplice, a Trojan horse who brought her abuser right back to her doorstep. Panic, raw and unadulterated, seizes Dylan's every nerve ending. She cannot speak. She can barely draw breath into her tightening lungs. Over Electra's shoulder, Dylan engages in a frantic, silent negotiation with the devil himself. Her eyes widen in a desperate, pleading glare, her facial expressions screaming at Remy to vanish, to melt back into the shadows from whence he came. She subtly shifts her weight, attempting to angle Electra's body away from the door, a physical barrier erected out of sheer, unadulterated desperation. Every second stretches into an agonizing eternity. Dylan's mind races through catastrophic scenarios, envisioning the exact moment Electra's eyes meet Remy's, the inevitable scream of terror, the immediate, devastating realization of ultimate betrayal. By some miraculous stroke of luck, or perhaps the cruelest form of delayed inevitable tragedy, Electra pulls away from the hug without glancing toward the corridor. She offers Dylan a final, warm smile, her demeanor light and unburdened, completely oblivious to the predator lingering just inches from her line of sight. As Electra turns and walks out of the office, narrowly missing Remy, who quickly ducks out of view, Dylan violently exhales, her knees nearly buckling beneath her. The immediate threat of exposure has passed, but the adrenaline coursing through her veins leaves her shaking uncontrollably. The close call is a terrifying wake-up call. The walls are closing in, and Dylan's precarious house of cards is swaying violently in the wind of Remy's obsession. The moment Electra's footsteps fade down the hall, Dylan's paralyzing fear instantly morphs into a fierce, protective rage. She darts out of the office, grabbing Remy by the arm and dragging him into a secluded corner away from prying eyes. The confrontation that ensues is a masterclass in desperate self-preservation clashing with toxic entitlement. Dylan's voice is a harsh, hushed whisper, trembling with barely contained fury as she berates Remy for his sheer audacity. She demands to know what on earth possessed him to show up at Forrester Creations, a place where his very presence is a trigger for immense trauma and a massive liability for her own survival. She views his stunt not just as foolish, but as a direct, aggressive attack on her newly found stability. Remy, true to his manipulative and narcissistic nature, immediately plays the victim card. He leans against the wall, a smug, unrepentant smirk playing on his lips, arguing that he poses no actual threat to anyone. He complains bitterly about the way Dylan is treating him, attempting to gaslight her into feeling guilty for her perfectly justified panic. Remy operates under the delusional belief that he is entitled to access any space he chooses, completely disregarding the trail of psychological destruction he has left in his wake. His complaints are a chilling reminder of his complete lack of empathy and his dangerous detachment from reality. He views Dylan not as a family member to be respected, but as a pawn.